Alrighty. Hello, John.
Hello.
It's my face. Hello. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this presentation with us. We do have some questions, but before we get into that, for anyone who might just be joining us, would you mind just reintroducing yourself?
Yeah, so my name is John Nguyen. I am the senior biz dev of Xsolla. I represent Canada for Xsolla as well, and yeah, that's what I do. Right.
There we go. So we have a question from Eros, specifically about the deck itself. They're wondering if it's possible that maybe we can make the slides themselves available somewhere after the event. Is that possible?
Yeah, sure. I'll hand it over to Eric, and Eric can make it available to any attendee.
All right,
My
awesome.
pleasure.
All right, we'll deal with that sometime after, a little bit after Game Slice, so look out for that. We have a gentleman named Victor, and their question goes as follows. I've heard people advise not to compare your own game to other games in your pitch and elevator pitch in case the person you're talking to hasn't heard of the other game. Although it helps tremendously to be able to reference other games for brevity. What is your take on this?
I think you need to have some references, and for several reasons. One, it kind of situates your game in an audience, right? In a certain niche. That's one. Two, you need to be able to point to an existing audience for your game, right? Because if you don't bring out comparable games, then how are you going to determine who are the likely people to buy your game, and what is the market size for that particular genre? So you need to be able to reference different games that are similar to yours in order to determine those 2 points.
So it sounds like find as much as you can and then find what's probably going to be the most popular or the most accurate to what you're trying to do.
Exactly. And it gives a general sense of where your game is situated in the grand scheme of things, and also the kind of how much money you're likely to generate out of your title. Because at the end of the day, it's still a guess, but at least you can figure out ballpark where yeah.
On average, is there a number? So specifically about publishers in this case, which are, I believe, would be in the equity angel investors usually. Is there a average for what indies could expect publishers to take from their, the funds they bring in? They make X amount, and their publisher, on average, will probably take between Y percentage and Z percentage.
I'm not sure I got your question.
Okay, so it's basically if a game developer makes X amount, is there sort of an average range of percentage that they can expect an investor to want off of that revenue? So between 20%, 30%, 50%.
It really depends on who you talk to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It really is. The delta is really wide. For publishers, they tend not to be equity. They tend to be per project.
Mm-hmm.
They'll come with you, they'll partner with you, they'll offer marketing support, a bunch of other stuff as well. So it really up to the developer to say, hey, is this a good deal for me?
Mm-hmm.
And is the percentage that they're asking for fair to you?
Mm-hmm.
Some I've heard take as little as 20-30%. Others have been almost egregious at 70.
Okay, goodness me. So we have Rob, I believe, from Bonehead Games. How early should you pitch?
As soon as you have a VS.
As soon as you have something to show.
Yeah, as soon as you have a build. And unless you were the guy who made Assassin's Creed, all right, and you have your brand name behind it, and you come up to an investor with a couple of concepts, and then you say, hey, I'm the guy that made Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm. So right? Chances are the people at GameSlice might be in a good place to start building their pitch.
Absolutely. You guys are in the perfect place. You have a playable demo. That's already a great place to be. It's more than I can say for some people that that have attempted to pitch to me, and we haven't started pitching ourselves when until we actually had a demo, a playable demo. So
this comes to a little bit more of your general industry experience that maybe you could talk to. They sort of want to know, like, where should developers start when they want to sort of build a budget for their pitch? Like, where should they start if they want to figure out what their numbers are actually going to look like?
In terms of a production budget?
Yeah, I think that's the intention.
So in terms of a production budget, you need to figure out one, the scope of your game. So how big your game is going to be, what are some of the technical challenges you need to overcome in order to get to a product that you feel is complete, right? So if you can get to that point and you can then estimate how much work is going to be required to get to that point, and how much people hours are going to be needed to be put in to accomplish that goal, in how much time, that's going to be your ballpark. Obviously, if you put more people into it, chances are it will take less time because you want to hit a certain window to release your game. If that doesn't really concern you, then you can take longer, but that will give you a general idea of how much money you'll need. And then again, that's a general money. I also highly recommend at least a buffer. So estimate, maybe a 30 to 40% buffer if you're really early. If you're really close, then I would say 30 is fine, or even 20. And that will cover unexpected tech issues, unexpected obstacles, all kinds of things. Maybe you need to hire really quickly. Maybe there's turnover in your company that's unexpected. And all these things are going to cost money. Also, if you're going to do marketing yourselves or self-publishing, which we do, and we can help you out with self-publishing. We have the tools for that. Or you want to go with a publisher, also figure that you need to do some trade shows to be able to meet these publishers. Game Slice being one of them.
Hey. So this is actually a question that comes up is, are trade shows the best place to find investors, or is there like any other places, maybe not necessarily as good, but kind of niche, that you can find things?
Xsolla Funding Club.
There you go.
Game investment.
There you go.
But otherwise, here's the thing with trade shows. People are already receptive to being pitched to. And there are scouts that are there, and they're receptive to being heard, to grant you an audience and have you pitch to them. So why not just take advantage of it? Game Slice is a great trade show. There's also some local stuff you want to go to. And we also give out free trade show tickets with the Xsolla Diamond Club. So you
go ahead.
So Xsolla Diamond Club is, it's kind of like it's a networking platform. There's also lots of workshops on it, and from time to time we do give out free trade show tickets to developers just to help them out.
The next question is, how big should your vertical slice be?
Big enough so that they can get a feel of your game.
Have you ever sort of had a vertical slice that they're like, keep playing, but you feel like you've gotten the idea?
Yeah, that's a little too long.
Fair enough. From Dorian, any solo developer specific tips?
Be very mindful of your scope.
Yes, that's very fair. Absolutely. Actually, I wanted to ask a little bit more, because you mentioned the Diamond Club. What other tools, and people can reach out to you with more questions after the fact as well. I would invite everyone to do so. John is a lovely person to speak with. I know, I'm doing it right now. But what other tools can Xsolla offer to developers, not just at GameSlice, but elsewhere as well?
Well, we offer tools. Basically, we're a payments company.
Mhm.
And what does that really mean to you? You know, it doesn't sound exciting. Uh, what it actually means is we can open up the world to you guys.
Mhm.
So there are people on this planet who do not have PayPal and who do not have credit cards and debit cards.
Mhm.
And this does not mean that they are poor. It's just that the economic reality they live in, and precludes them from having that. And so you're basically able to sell your games to these people. And what does it really represent? I mean, it could be up to 40% bigger audience to these guys. It also allows you to be more in control of your games or tools, right? You can set up a landing page, you can sell Steam keys off your page, and all this can save you a lot of money on the long run because our fees are like 5%.
There you go.
And we also have an influencer management platform. So discoverability, affiliate sales, marketing. These are some of the things that we can help you with as long on top of funding and trade show tickets and networking.
This is an interesting question from Vince. Out of curiosity, is there a good way to ask for money if your game doesn't necessarily do anything too different than the other things in the genre, but it is good?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
Is
The market has already responded that this is an that there's a market for a particular type of game, so why not just ask for money for it? Now, if there's a million of these games out there, you might have some problems punching through the noise, right? But at the same time, I mean, if there's a market for it, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. What goes into a really good hook?
Something. Oh, that's a really hard question.
Yes. You got time. You got time to think.
What goes into a really good hook? It's either. I think the best way to say it would be sort of kind of like a plot twist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Right? Like either it's a different mechanic or a different gameplay beat. I used to be a level designer, so I'll use that term. Or something that's more than just narrative. You know what I mean? There's a game, an actual game mechanic.
Something that people can feel.
Yeah, that they can feel, right? More so than just a narrative, because if it's just narrative, it's just fluff, right? But it has to be something concrete within the game, and I would say a game mechanic of some kind that's slightly different or slightly tweaked, that gives the game a certain character.
During your talk, you did talk about sort of these are the ingredients to help you prepare. Are there any common mistakes or misconceptions you see thrown around, or in your terms, something that a lot of people throw into the pot that they shouldn't?
I think the biggest thing I've seen, the most common thing I've seen, is people who are pitching their game for the sake of pitching their game. They're not, and they omit the very important thing, which is the opportunity. Right? They're saying their game is the greatest, and their game is this and that. This is what makes my game so interesting and different, but they fail to mention or fail to put as much importance in the opportunity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And finding those kinds of opportunities is really important before stepping forward and picking up showing your thing to investors. Sorry, hold on. Oh, sorry, yeah, I know. Someone made a comment, and I think this is a really good one to expand on what you just mentioned. So do you mean that you have to ask the question, what is in it for the investor?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're asking them for money after all.
Absolutely, that's right. I find it a lot with a lot of indie devs. They struggle with sort of asking for money or maybe not necessarily seeing the value in what they do. And considering you were in indie development, was there ever sort of a fight for within you in terms of getting that confidence and learning how to ask for the value and the money that you deserve?
It was listen, I was in a position where it was a survival thing for the art, right? It was like, okay, so this is what I want to do with my living, but I have bills to pay. And not only that, I was responsible for other people's livelihoods, right? My team's livelihood. And so, it's okay that you're indie, and that doesn't mean that you can't be a business. Because at the end of the day, you need to pay your bills, keep the lights on, and keep your people fed.
Yeah, that's right. It's very important. And I'm sure a lot of indies out here with the smaller to the medium-sized teams understand that struggle about you have a responsibility to your teammates. So go out and find the people who want to pay you for your hard work. And if you
share the fruits of that.
That's right. That's right. And that is what an investor is for. To you have the seed, they have the water and maybe even the dirt, and then you all get to benefit after the fact.
Exactly. It's a share, right? It's not like there's this misconception with a lot of indies that these guys are sharks and these guys are, I'll go there because I'll say it. Right? But you can find a real partner in the industry that's going to allow you to grow and to allow you to put soil under your feet so that your team doesn't have to eat ramen and can develop comfortably on a full stomach.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's okay that they get a cut because they gave you the water and the fertilizer to do so.
And if you're sort of having trouble figuring out what you want to ask for, there's a lot of tools out there. Start tracking your time and doing those calculations now before you start building your pitch. And if you've already done some hours, try to estimate how many hours you've put into your project already and start building out those numbers, because hard numbers are going to be really useful for pointing to here's the evidence, here's the proof, right?
Exactly.
When it comes, go ahead.
And then once you get past the honeymoon, the attention, right, and they're really interested in your game, they're going to ask you hard numbers. Because at the end of the day, I know it's hard to relate, but let's say the guy has a couple $1 million burning a hole in his pocket and he wants to give it to you, right? He's not just going to give it to you. He wants to have some reassurances that his money is going to be put to work well, right? And the better you answer the hard questions, like Eric said, keep track of your numbers, general pay rate, industry going rates. You need to hire X number of people. What is that going to look like? Simple multiplication at that point. All right. It comes up to a number. And if you can break it down and justify it, there's the evidence.
Yep. And it doesn't have to be in your pitch deck necessarily. You can have sort of the basic numbers there and be like, oh, well, if you want to see more, we have this entire spreadsheet for you to look at if you really want to. And maybe they won't, because a lot of people don't like reading, especially in emails. But it's something you can point to as your experience.
Absolutely. You want it to be as high level as possible. And then when you get to the time phase where you actually get their time and you sit down and start talking, at least you have something to point to.
Yeah, 100%. For a team that might be less experienced, do you think it's more important to try and upsell yourself? Or is it more important to be honest, say, this is the experience we have, these are the risks with that experience?
Honesty is the best policy.
There you go. It's a very simple answer, right? But try to do both if you can.
Try to do like don't sell yourself short. That's it. That's what I'm trying to say. But then don't hype it either.
That's right.
Because that can land you in hot water. But definitely don't sell yourself short. I mean, talent is talent. And if you're inexperienced, we all start somewhere.
Right.
And if your work will speak for itself.
Oh, here's a good one. Are any red flags that developers should look for when trying to find funding or a publisher to make sure they don't get caught up in a bad situation?
Red flags in regards to the investors?
I think that's the implication, yes.
Okay. You'll often see investors change the terms as the discussions progress. That's probably a red flag. Another one is ask around.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there are ask around. Like, what are some of the interactions with people who have dealt with these groups or these individuals? There are some pretty shady individuals out there and firms. I'm not going to name them, but there are some, and definitely buyer beware. And don't be so desperate as to sign on the dotted line with someone just because they fork over a check.
Yeah. And don't get discouraged if you get a lot of no's, because that does happen in the industry, and that doesn't mean your idea is bad. So don't like run into a bad situation because you feel like you have to. A lot of the times you do have the choice to keep trying.
And that's absolutely a great point, Eric. I mean, if you will be rejected more than you would be having an investor willing to write a check, and that's just reality of it. It's not that your ideas are bad. It's just that sometimes it's bad timing, or it's not what they're looking for because they have a specific mandate. There's a number of reasons why they would say no, and it's not because your idea is bad. And if anything, if it's a lukewarm no, definitely keep in touch. You want to grow your network. You never know.
And maybe you can use that network in the future. People do talk in the games industry, as long as specific things aren't under NDA, of course. But people do talk, so even if it's just you say, hey, do you know anyone who knows anyone who knows anyone? You might be able to find someone who's worked with that publisher or worked with that investor or have done this and done that, and they go, yeah, oh man, they took care of everything, and as long as the game sold, which it did, they really helped me out. There's still room for that.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's see. I am pulling that now. As far as if people want, so we have your email, thankfully. Is there any other place that people could reach out to, not just you, but other teammates in Xsolla? Because you handle Canada, correct?
Correct.
What about people from the United States, South America? Would they still be reaching out to you, or would you just sort of pass them off to the appropriate peoples?
Yeah, I'll just pass them off. I know I have my colleague Jurgen in Latin America. In Europe, there's Mika, who takes care of business in Europe. I'll just pass them out.
Okay, awesome. One of the things I do like to ask people when they come on, and you've actually touched on it a lot, so this might be a smaller conversation than usual, but you said you were a level designer, and you had your own studio, right? What brought you sort of into games in the first place?
So this is a funny story.
Okay.
So I was maybe 8 or 9, right? And my parents bought me a 386.
Okay. Okay.
And because I was a very strict Asian upbringing, I was like, this is for studying and nothing else, right? And I was like, this is this is during the heyday of shareware. I was like, you kidding me? I can't play games on this thing. So unrelated, but sort of related, they also took me to the municipal library and said, you need to read books. Doesn't matter what books, but just needed to read books.
Okay.
So I found myself in the programming aisle. And I found books, and I read them, and pretty soon I was making my own games in QBasic.
What was the first game you made?
It's this silly little text-based adventure.
Did you get a chance to play Zork beforehand, or were you in your own brain the inventor of the text-based adventure?
Oh, in my own brain because I was a silly 9-year-old.
There you
No, and then eventually I was making my own games that were not just copy pasted from these books. My parents caught me, and I got into supreme shit with it. and until they actually realized that here's their 9-year-old who read books and made games and got around with you. But yeah, I went into a different career path until I actually came back to games.
Well, can I ask what you were doing before games?
I was a lawyer.
You were a lawyer? What? Oh my god, you've done all kind. So you started as a child as a programmer, doing your programming. You went off, became a lawyer, and what made you decide to come back to games specifically?
I was waiting in line at court.
Okay. And
The lawyer before me is a senior attorney who reeked of alcohol and sniffled his nose at 9:30 in the morning.
you decided.
Not for me.
Did you find that sort of background helpful when you got back into games?
Absolutely. It helped me a lot with contracts. It helped me with negotiations. It was, starting up my own business. It gave me a good kind of legalese background because essentially legalese is code.
Yeah, 100%. For people who, I would imagine most, if not all of our developers watching this right now are not coming from law backgrounds. And contracts can be kind of a difficult thing to navigate. Do you have any advice for people who have to deal with contracts who might never have had to before?
Contracts are structured very specifically. There's different components to it, and they're typically at the same place. And that will allow you to if you can understand the components, the headers. There's always a beginning, a condition, a consequence, and an end to a contract, right? And so that's how they're structured, and the different components are always there. The same elements are always there, maybe not in the same place, but definitely around the same places. And that will allow you to navigate a contract a lot faster.
Interesting. So, I mean, in terms of your own... Go ahead.
I mean, view it like a piece of code, right? It's structured a certain way. There's certain functions that call onto other functions, and a contract is no different.
And also maybe get a lawyer. In game development,
get a lawyer.
There are enough horror stories of people ending up in situations that they didn't have to be in. So get a lawyer.
It's when you consider the cost of a lawyer and the cost of the consequences of acting without a lawyer, it's fairly cheap.
So were you technically your own lawyer when you were back in your own indie development?
Actually, no, because at that point in time, I was no longer a licensed attorney.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
However, I did a lot of the heavy lift.
Yeah, you helped read a lot of the documents.
I did a lot of the heavy lift for my studio, and the lawyer just rubber stamped it.
There you go. And they never had any corrections because you always did it perfectly.
I don't know. They had suggestions.
Very fair. All right. Do we have any final questions here, broadcast? No? They're just doing their own conversation? Awesome. Perfect. So, John, we're going to start wrapping up now. Are there any sort of closing statements you want to make to the audience about any of the stuff we've touched on here?
Sure. Listen, getting funding for your game is one of the most important things you can do. It's not an easy task. And at certain points it does run counter to the indie mentality or culture. You're gonna have being indie is fine, but it's also okay to be a business. And if you want to continue to do your arts, you need to have the resources to continue to do that. So there's no reason for you guys to suffer, right? There are resources out there, and please take advantage of them. Learn how to properly pitch and get the resources you need. If you need help, I'll be more than happy to help. My email is john.nguyen@xsolla.com. I'll be hanging around in the channels as well, so feel free to ping me. And it was great being here, Eric.
Yeah, it was amazing having you. John, we can actually put you in a specific one of the free open channels if you'd like after the talk, and people can, come talk to you if you'd like.
Yeah, great.
All right. So thank you so much, John, once again, for all that valuable information and insight and sharing with us a little bit about your journey. Moving on from that, from 6 to 7 p.m. ET, we will be having our developer speed networking. So if you signed up for speed networking, you can hop into the speed networking green room at 6. We're going to let people sit in there for about 10 minutes before we start moving people around. And then on the live stream at 6 and 6:30, we have some pre-recorded interviews from Playdo and Luna Beat with their games Lost Twins 2 and Paranormal Detective Escape from the 90s, followed by a developer roundtable at 7. Stay tuned for all the industry insight we have packed into GameSlice 2021. And thank you once again, John.
Thank you, Eric.
All right.